Okay, today on the workbench we have a Planet Robot, and I thought before I put it all back together you guys might want to take a peek inside. But also in the description link down below I'll put links to all the different variations of the original issue of the Planet Robot. It's kind of hard to say that. The Planet Robots, which actually started in the mid-1950s, haven't really ever gone out of production. They've changed countries and stuff, but I mean clear up into the early 1970s Japan was still making variations of it, and now of course there's all the Chinese variations of it, and well, I'll put links to all of that stuff down below so you guys can enjoy it. This particular one, which is 65 going on 70 years old, has the red rubber hands. Some of the original ones had the metal claws, then they had red rubber, and then they went back to metal claw, and then they went to the hard plastic long red claws. Anyway, this is a very, very old latex rubber, and it's had a hard life, but the owner of this wanted me to be very careful so that it could survive as is. I understand that. This particular one still has the tin head. Near the end of the Japan build, we used to, back in the, when I collected way back in the 70s and the 80s, there weren't any reissues, there weren't any versions, the China versions of all the things, so we would actually call things like reissues and stuff like that. Anyway, this still has the tin head, and it was originally sent to me because this rear wheel pin, originally when this toy was made, the axle pins that hold these wheels in place would be just pressed into the rubber, and of course the rubber would hold the pin in place. But as these things got old and the rubber dried out, then the pins get loose, and they can actually, since they didn't cut the pins as long as the width of the wheel, they just barely cut them long enough to catch the two pieces of metal that's pinned to. The pin can drop out, and then the wheel drops out, and then of course the robot has problems. The owner of this had tried to repair it, so when I got it, this foot cover was still loose, but you can only lift it, you know, that much because this leg piece is here. The way the wheel was situated when I received it was backwards. There actually is a front ways and a back ways to the little grooves that are on there for the ratchet to bite into, plus the ratchet itself, which is a hanging flap of metal, was hanging to the back. It has to hang to the front in order to ratchet correctly. So now that's ratcheting correctly, and I got that back in without taking the body off or anything else, and then I sat the robot down and found it just fell over all the time. Well, at the bottom of these linkage parts, there's a front and a rear linkage part that come down in. They're tabbed with little metal tabs that come out, and they'd been bent over so that the foot was so wobbly without that linkage being tabbed into the bottom, right? There would just fall over. The only way you could get in there to fix that tab is you got to be able to lift that shoe part up further, and the only way you're going to lift that shoe part up further is if you can pull these axles out. In order to pull those axles out, you got to take the body off. So, long story short, it became quite the little job. And as I was in there to do all that, I also wanted to check the flint, and of course the flint that came with it was completely gone, and you can see how the flint wheel here had worn into the metal, if it's in focus, worn into the metal. The flint was completely gone. So fortunately I have from Repro Toys, China Repro Toys, I have the soft flint that you need for these sparking toys. I was able to press in a new flint. I've somewhat cleaned the grooves in this wheel. I really need to clean them a little bit more before I put the toy totally back together. But I thought you might want to take a peek at this before it was all put together. Maybe even you got some spark action going there already. Pretty cool. The front of the body is what holds that on. This lever, the on-off lever, literally just pushes on the shaft of the spark wheel, jams it so that things stop running. The front of the body is the next part that has to go on, And let's just see if it's in the mood, or if I'm gonna have to fool with it some. If I'm gonna have to fool with it some, then I'll do it off camera so that I can see what I'm doing more than staring at the viewfinder in the camera. I think I've almost got the top lined up. I think I need to straighten these pins out a little bit more to get that in, and probably unwind the wind up so that this lever can be down far enough to pass through the front. So I'll probably reassemble all of this off camera. And then there are, of course, the 4 little tabs and 1 crotch tab when you go to slide everything back together. You can see a lot of that in some of my other videos as well. But I mainly wanted to let you take a little peek at what's going on inside these guys. Spark wheel, you got your wind-up spring, your gears, pivots, your cranks that actually make the legs move. In case you weren't watching, let's turn that back on since I have to unwind it somewhat anyway. There you can see the crank action. And I'll move that down so it's more free to wind down. Alright, sure to check out the links that I post. You'll enjoy it. I might even put a link to the jumbo 5-foot tall planet robot build that I did.